Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
So I watched this Jubilee debate that Mehdi Hasan did. It's the 20v1 debate structure, which I'm sure everybody knows at this point. It's basically just one person debating 20 other people. Seems like they're ramping up production of these. They're turning it into a podcast. They want to do this more often. I guess it was a hit. These videos tend to go viral. And even a figure like Sam Seder was able to go on there and go viral sort of in his opposition to the MAGA and sort of Christian nationalist ideas that Jubilee tends to promote. And in consuming a decent amount of their content, making this podcast, you definitely notice the pattern that it is clearly set up to promote Christian nationalist ideas. And they have a fair amount of like balance in terms of inviting people like Mehdi Hasan on there or Sam Seder. And again, it did benefit Sam Seder, and he happened to be a good messenger in that moment for the people that he was talking to sort of go viral and make himself look good. But at the same time, the consistent thread in this content is Christian nationalism, and specifically platforming of vicious forms of Christian nationalism. Like absolutely unhinged people are coming on this platform and arguing for Christian nationalism. They had Candace Owens as their most recent host of this debate before Mehdi Hasan, and the people, debating her in that instance are like not even close to that level of radical, to the level of radical that they have on the right-wing side. This is clearly a platform to promote right-wing ideas, and so they feel that the best way to do that is to also platform some left-wing ideas with the purpose of coming off as balanced. But this debate with Mehdi Hasan is a good example of how bankrupt of a project that is. And I'm just going to say this up front. I'm not going to play any clips of this debate in this podcast. I watched the whole thing. Normally I do post clips, especially from these Jubilee debates, but there's a couple reasons I'm not going to. First of all, they tend to get demonetized. And then the money also goes to Jubilee. So they'll run ads on my video that's not even monetized on my end. So I don't want them to do that. But also in watching this debate, it becomes clear to me that there's no way to platform what these people are saying. There's no way for me to proliferate what these people are saying in any way that is responsible. However, the most urgent and most important to highlight parts of this debate would be the exact ones that I would not want to perpetuate. So I'm going to go over this debate a little bit, and I'll show you some of these people who are doing the debating, but I'm not going to play what they said, and I don't necessarily recommend anybody goes and watches this. I mean, you can if you want. I've said before that this is an entertaining program, but it's becoming more clear that their goal is to present extreme far-right nationalism as a viable ideology. And so they have this format of doing it, but it seems to be working, because the way it works at this point is that pretty much all these people that are debating here are influencers of some kind. They're people with an audience. And so all of them are promoting themselves in some sense, which is another reason that I don't want to play anything that anybody said. But it's creating this distorted view of where the country's at. And you also get these weird moments where it's like you see all these people in agreement over something insane. And so we'll get to all of that. Because I'm not going to play the video, I can go through sort of the beats of the conversation a little bit more. But I think Mehdi kind of found himself in the same situation that Sam Seder found himself in doing this, which is he said he even asked Sam beforehand, should I do this? Is it worth doing? And Sam said, yeah, because he went viral, and it did help him get his ideas and make it clear that a lot of conservatives don't understand the things that they're arguing for. So in that instance, it worked in Sam Seder's favor. And so I think Mehdi Hasan went in knowing that, but also knowing that he was going to be confronted with some pretty troubling ideologies, because that's exactly what Sam Seder experienced. He said he was a little surprised at the extent to which he was arguing against people who don't believe in democracy and that sort of thing. And so Mehdi Hasan went on there, and I think pretty quickly he was confronted with the type of extreme ideology. I mean, this one is billed as one progressive versus 20 far-right conservatives. So it's like the whole point of this cast that they have here is that they are far-right. But, you know, the conversation then devolves into people talking about why they essentially don't believe in democracy and, you know, explicitly arguing for white ethno-states. There are multiple people here in this cast that I have seen before on previous episodes of Jubilee that have also argued for the same thing. So consistently, like a lot of people that believe that. And while I think that there is something representative about that when it comes to what people on the right feel, it doesn't take that much discernment to recognize that, like, these are not normal people, and especially the ones that are espousing the most extreme far-right rhetoric are clearly like not just your average Trump voter. These are people who are trying to build an audience. A lot of them are quite weird. You know, I like one of these guys kind of reminds me of Stephen Miller in his ideology and stuff. So while the, you know, broad bases of the electorate, I think many of them have adopted pretty fascist ideals, but for the most part, people don't believe the same things that these people on here on Jubilee are saying. And there's a little bit of that. You get a sense of disagreement, but for the most part, people go along with it, with what's being said by whoever is in the chair. And sometimes it gets a little too extreme, but by and large, the majority on these programs is, you know, people who are essentially arguing against democracy. And while I'm sure Mehdi had to expect that, maybe from one or two of these people, he may not have expected that from as many of the people as he got it from, and it also turned quite confrontational. So I think Mehdi handled this relatively well. It's a question of, does it make sense to go on a platform like this? I think it's quickly becoming clearer and clearer what the disbalance is, because the equivalent of having the type of far-right people that they have on this platform would be like having, you know, full-on communists, you know what I mean? And like really platforming the ideas of what it looks like to have a revolution in America and like, you know, the eradication of far-right ideology. I mean, that's what these people are talking about. So if this was a balanced program, it would be platforming people who are arguing for like real live autocratic communism. And instead they have like, you know, essentially moderates. Mehdi Hasan and Sam Seder are moderates compared to the type of psychos that they have from the right on this platform. So it's clear what they're doing at this point. And I think Mehdi kind of realized that halfway through. I think he kind of starts to realize that this was a mistake, and that some of the people that he's arguing with here are in good faith, but they're also, you know, there were moments where at one point there's a round of applause for a guy who says that white people are Native Americans. Another guy says that he's a fascist, that he's not in favor of democracy, but rather autocracy ran by anybody who believes in the Christian faith, to which there's an applause break. There's other moments where people tell Mehdi Hasan that he is going to be deported, and people are laughing, jeering, and applauding about that. So, you know, it's a very contentious debate. It turned very racist very fast, and I think it was hard for Mehdi to still feel like this was a productive conversation after that point. And it's rough. I mean, there is a distinction between him going on there and having this debate and Sam Seder going on there and having this debate. Not saying that Sam, you know, shouldn't have told him it was worth going. That was just his experience. But I do think it's unfortunate that Mehdi went there and received so much more abuse. And so I think he still held his own, obviously, in this debate, but it quickly became clear that this is not actually about debate. And even though there are people here who don't consider themselves in line with that level of far-right conservatism, still, there's a broad sense here that Mehdi is up against this impenetrable wall of racism, white nationalism, Christian nationalism. They're all pretty much right in lockstep on that. And so I think he realized in real time that this is not a platform where he's able to get much of a viewpoint opposed to this out. And you could argue that there's some value in showing what these people really believe to the world. But I don't know. I don't know that it's the moment for that, frankly. I mean, because these people are reveling in the fact that their team has power, and specifically people who think exactly like them have power right now. Like this kid, Connor, I think his name, he has some kind of online persona. I don't know. I'm not going to promote that. But he is so gleefully autocratic, and he explains in detail how the reason that a fascist, which he describes himself as, would do a debate like this is because it makes sense to use democratic practices like debate to the end of gaining power, getting your ideas out there, gaining power, and then canceling elections thenceforth and taking away free speech thenceforth and, reigning as fascist forever. That is what his idea, he explicitly says that. I'm not misquoting him at all. And so those are the type of far-right people that are on this platform, and there's only so much that Mehdi can do with that. To that guy, in response to that guy saying he's a fascist, Mehdi's response is essentially, I don't debate fascists. And then, they talk a little bit more after that. But from that point on, Mehdi kind of takes on the tone of there are some people in this circle that there's no point in debating them because of what that guy Connor says about how fascists use debate to take power. They use it to their own ends. It's free speech for me and not for thee. That's what they believe in. And so it does not make sense to debate people like that. And so I think there were some people in this circle that Mehdi was capable of having a conversation with. Them. All of them were racist, frankly. All of them had a sense of resentment against Mehdi just because he's a brown man who has an accent, it kept coming back to that. And so, that's just something that somebody like Sam Cedar doesn't have to experience, or Dean Withers or Destiny or whoever else they've had on this platform. They don't have to experience that. And, so I think while I respect Mehdi for doing this program is coming to a point where it's not worth doing anymore. I think it might have even been a fluke that Sam Cedar's episode of this did so well. Because I think it was just the perfect balance of him knowing his shit and the people that he was debating didn't know anything that they were saying. Whereas in this debate, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of people who can't debate on the facts. There are some people who do have a set of facts at their disposal, despite the, wherever they might be getting this information from. But some of these people do come equipped with information, and yet they are just as racist. They're arguing for race science. They're arguing for, the eradication of immigration and religions that they don't like and that sort of thing. So even if Jubilee is a good faith platform, which they're clearly not, clearly they want to platform fascists like this, but even if they are, let's say they are, okay, let's talk to a hypothetical version of the Jubilee creators that are not obvious Christian fascists. If you are trying to create a platform that serves to democratic ends and serves the public good by showing balanced debate, why are you platforming a person who is openly saying that he is using your platform to the end of his autocracy that he wants, and then he would take that right away from you? Except he wouldn't, because you're a Christian nationalist platform, and that's what you're there for. So at a certain point, it does become clear that this platform isn't worth engaging with. It might be worth a lot of views. Who knows how much of that is real? It is genuinely hard to tell on YouTube these days, especially with super huge programs. I think when it comes to Jubilee, the people who should be doing these debates are real fucking leftists. People who are going to be vicious about it. They need to get some Maoists and Stalinists on this fucking platform if this is going to be a balanced debate. Seriously. I mean, it's at that level. And even then, the people on the left probably wouldn't be saying shit as insane as the people on this platform are saying. And so unless you're willing to go on there with as vicious of an intent as possible, I don't think this platform is viable for a left-wing perspective anymore. I think in the case of Sam Cedar, he was able to do the kind of soft dunking where people just made themselves look like idiots. But it's been clear since then, and even in that debate, you had some of these sort of frothing at the mouth Christian nationalists. And it's becoming clear that those people are seeing this platform as a place that they can air out their ideas. And they know that the best way for them to do that is to blow past their opponent, to shout, to sort of like be gleeful and perverted and weird and violent in the things that they say. And they feel that if they can air that sort of thing out on a wide platform, then they can project strength. And so, you know, there is a version of a program like this that could present a meaningful answer to that, but it doesn't. So that just makes it clear that that is the ideology of the creators here, because nobody else on the planet would be willing to platform some of these things that these far-right people are saying. And I get that they've gained a lot of power in America, and it's important to understand what people are saying. And I mean, I'm a big proponent of that. I often put forward people's actual arguments to talk about the substance of it. But, you know, as Mehdi recognizes at a certain point in this debate, it comes to a point where you're not talking to somebody who believes in your right to free speech. They believe in their right to free speech. And especially at a moment where those people are proving that their methods of gaining power are working, I don't think it makes sense to view them as good faith interlocutors in any way. And I think that's quite clear in this debate. And they keep saying to him, oh, well, you're saying you're not willing to debate fascists. That upsets me. You're not willing to debate people that you disagree with. He's debating people he disagrees with in every moment of this debate. There's only one person he says I'm not willing to debate, and it's the person who explicitly calls himself a fascist and says that I'm using democratic institutions to the end of installing a fascist regime. He said he's not willing to talk to that person, and that is the correct response to that. And the correct course on the part of Jubilee would be not to platform somebody like that at all, and to keep them as far away from your premises as possible. So the fact that they're not doing that and they're inviting people like that in to come and air out their ideology shows that it's an evil program. It truly is. The people who come on here are purely evil. Some of them are grifters who don't believe what they're saying, but a lot of them are. The real unfortunate truth about it is that a lot of these people really believe this shit, and they do want people like Mehdi Hasan deported, even though he's a naturalized U.S. citizen. He is a citizen, and he explains that over and over again, and yet he has people telling him he's not an American, trying to make constitutional arguments for why he's not an American and why we should amend the Constitution or eradicate the Constitution, or they don't care if the Constitution is dismantled in this way as long as it's not Democrats doing it. I mean, that's the level of debate that's happening here. And so I think going forward, it doesn't make sense for, you know, essentially a moderate progressive like Mehdi Hasan to do this program, because you just don't have the same type of, like, you know, vicious artillery that you need to talk to people like this. The only way to talk to people like this is to shut them down so viciously that you humiliate them. That's the only way. And so that's what they're doing. They're actively trying to do that. And that would be the only way that this would be a balanced platform. And I still don't think it would have much value if that was the case. Like this video, please like and subscribe. And if you really want to support, consider becoming a member. That's the best way to support this channel. I'm also running a live stream now of my own music and content 24/7. So go check that out. If you're interested in the music, you can drop a comment in the chat. You know, tell me what you think of the music or ask me a question. I'm going to be kind of checking in on the chat there regularly, just to talk to you guys if you have any questions for me or want to suggest things. And then if you send super chats in there too, I can read those on the pod. Just some new things that I'm trying out. I also got my website up with a little bit of merch on there, just a hoodie and a hat for now. I'm selling those at retail price just to try to get some stuff out there. So if any of that is your cup of tea, check it out and become a member if you want access to exclusive music and different kinds of content before anybody else gets it.